The January transfer window officially opens in the A-League men's competition next week, and we're going to go through every single team and pick out a position for them where they really need to recruit in. Some clubs desperately need to recruit in this mid-season transfer window. Some clubs are looking a bit more comfortable. And of course, we're going through in alphabetical order. Adelaide United, a team who made very little movement in the pre-season transfer window. Overall, when you look at the squad depth, and we'll look at the squads for every single side, it's looking pretty solid for the Reds. But the area that I think needs to... they just need a bit more quality, I think, is in defence. I think another central defender would really help at Adelaide United. And when I say central defender, I don't just mean another defender that they can bring in. I mean someone of real quality. The back line is an area where the Reds have struggled in recent years, despite their general success. They've been finishing in finals most years recently. They have been leaky at the back, and they're all decent centre backs. You look at the names there: Ansel, Popovic. They've been the main two guys who have been starting this season. Warland and Barr have been in there a little bit as well. I feel like they just need a real experienced player in there. They do have another visa slot open if they want to bring someone in from overseas. Obviously, that is tricky, especially in the middle of the campaign. But I feel like that's the area where they just need a little bit of quality, because you look at the rest of the park and it's pretty solid. I mean, Clough is having a very good season in midfield. You've got good options up front in Ibasuki, Jovanovic. Aaron Kunda's having a decent season as well. We know that this is Aaron Kunda's last year in the A-League. So overall, the coverage is pretty, in terms of depth, it's all right. But I think just that one more quality centre-back would very much help Adelaide United and their push towards the top this season. Brisbane Roar, a team in a really fascinating position right now. Started so well this season. And then Ross Aloisi departs the club on Christmas Eve. Ben Khan has recently taken over as the new head coach. And this is a team that contains plenty of youth, plenty of excitement, and it's still a decent squad. But injuries are affecting them at the moment. Henry Hoare has been missing the last few weeks, as has Florian Berenguer, a couple big names who have been absent lately. For me, Brisbane Roar are a team who I think would really benefit from another midfield player. Jay O'Shea has been playing in that area alongside whether it is Gamorka or Coletti. But I feel like, again, someone of maybe a bit more experience, a bit more class to join O'Shea in there. Someone maybe a bit more defensive-minded to allow Jay O'Shea a bit more license to move forward and be creative. You look at Berenguer, you look at O'Shea, those are two guys who are very creative. They're much more, aggressive, attacking midfielders, if you like. Someone to balance out that midfield of more strength and quality, I think would really, really help Brisbane Roar. Again, one of those teams, you look across the park, it's looking pretty decent. Look, maybe they could bring in another wide player, another winger, maybe on that left-hand side to provide maybe a bit more experience as well. It's a very, very young side, that's for sure, for Brisbane Roar this season. But I think that midfield area is definitely one that Brisbane could identify to recruit in the mid-season transfer window. My team, Central Coast Mariners. Well, one of the pieces of news we already have heading into the transfer window is that Marco Tullio is departing the squad, so he has not been included, of course, in the upcoming squad for the rest of the season. No Marco Tullio. So this is sort of a lineup that we've been seeing the Mariners, roughly play recently. Josh Nisbet playing in more of an advanced role, almost a number 10 position there. And it's Brad Tapp who's been jumping into that midfield area alongside Max Ballard. You look up top and it's, still pretty well covered there for the Mariners with Kowal Reese and Wenzel Halls, who hasn't been getting too much game time this season. Wide positions are looking pretty comfortable now as well. Wilson's been shifted out into that left midfield position and has looked decent this season. Defense, I'm still pretty happy with how it's looking across that back line. They're really starting to tighten up a little bit in recent weeks, the Mariners, which is good to see. But for me, it is that central attacking midfield position that I think wouldn't hurt to bring someone in just to... I don't want to say, contest with Nisbet, because Josh Nisbet is the kind of player who can play basically anywhere across that midfield area, even if it is in a wide position. But obviously with Tullio departing, that's the obvious position. But I'd love to see, a real sort of out-and-out creative playmaker come into this Mariners lineup, tee up the likes of Torres and Kowal, these guys to, continue scoring goals this season and, provide some more competition across that midfield area. Another player we know is departing this upcoming transfer window is Jonathan Aspero-Potamidi. So it's pretty obvious where Macarthur need to strengthen for this upcoming window in the central defensive area. Uskok, Yeoman, Jones, some decent options there. Jones more of the younger option. You could potentially even shift maybe Nicolau into that area as well. If McGinn comes back from injury, he can shift back into that centre back position. But yet imagine with Aspero leaving, that will be the position that they look at recruiting in. Across the park, again, looking pretty solid. You've got at least 2 players competing in every position. Midfield, they're really stacked at the moment, Macarthur. But I think centre-back is an easy one there for Macarthur to recruit in. Melbourne City, a team who have been suffering from some injuries this season. We know that Matt Leckie and Andrew Naboot have missed much of the season. Andrew Naboot set to miss just about the entire season from what we know. And across the park, though, it's pretty solid and well covered. But I think in the midfield area, another defensive midfielder would help. You look across that midfield and look, Saki, Arslan, Ugarkovic have sort of been those go-to central midfielders. Antonis and Lapane provide good options off the bench as well. But that central defensive midfield area is definitely identified as a position where I think they could recruit in maybe another young player to come in there and provide some competition for Ugarkovic. Again, you look at the other areas on the pitch and it's pretty well covered. Defensively, they're looking pretty solid. Good balance of youth and experience there, Melbourne City. They're one of those teams that I think doesn't have to do anything drastic. There's no real holes in this Melbourne City squad. They're starting to build some decent form in recent weeks to push, and hopefully for them, they'll push towards the top of the table. As they have been in recent years, it's definitely a team that's capable of finishing in the top 6, in my opinion, once again. Their rivals, Melbourne Victory, and for me, this is one that I sort of identified pre-season. We talked about it. Is the striker position, and it's more so a critical position now with Bruno Fornaroli, obviously on Socceroos duty. He is away at the Asian Cup. Obviously, Bruno Fornaroli has been incredible this season, and he is, of course, going to be the starting striker for Melbourne Victory for the rest of the campaign. But another player just to compete with Bruno Fornaroli, to come off the bench, to provide a different option if they need it, Melbourne Victory. And obviously, especially in this period, I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple of weeks, potentially the coming days from this video, who knows, they might have already signed someone by the time this video comes out. And another player to sort of fill that hole while Bruno Fornaroli is out. Look, I'm sure someone like Ben Falami, Zinedine Machash could fill that position. But that striker position is definitely an area where they could fill. Again, you look at the midfield ranks there and it's stacked. I mean, we may even see some departures. I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see a couple of those names depart. They have got a very stacked squad. Melbourne Victory, one of the deepest in the competition. Striker position, that could be an area that Victory could strengthen for this season. Newcastle Jets, a team who, again, one of those more youthful squads. I have been impressed with the likes of Clayton Taylor. He's been very, very good this season. Stamatolopoulos has been fantastic, scoring goals. When you look at the squad depth across this chart, it's very, very solid. But again, I said this pre-season, I think Jets would benefit by signing another defender. Carl Jenkinson hasn't really been getting any game time this season. It's Mark Natta and Phil Kankar who's sort of been those starting centre-backs. I think just one more experienced centre-back would help just balance things out there at the back. Potentially in midfield as well. I know Bertamir has been out with injury as well. Piscopo struggling with injury. You could look at that midfield area as another sort of destination for a signing to arrive in, just to provide some more depth in that area as well. But I think the priority for Jets, just to tighten up things defensively, they would really benefit from maybe a more experienced central defender up there in the Hunter. Let's talk about Perth Glory now, because they're in a fascinating position. They're one of those teams who are struggling a little bit at the moment. And you look at the team, and it's decent, isn't it? I mean, the signings of Bozanic and Carluccio as well. Taggart has been decent this season, scoring goals, as has Kolakowski. He's finally finding some decent form over there in the West. Should mention as well, Bozanic and Carluccio, their loans expire. But from what we're hearing, from what we're seeing online, is that the head coach, Alan Stajic, is optimistic that those loans will be extended for the rest of the season. So we'd expect those players to stick around for the remainder of the campaign. And overall, the squad depth is looking pretty decent. But for me, Perth Glory are struggling a little bit in a creative sense moving forward. I think they may be just lacking maybe that creative midfield. I bring it up a lot, and I've brought it up for the last couple of years, is like ever since they lost Diego Castro, you felt like Perth Glory just lost a dimension to their attack, you know what I mean? And you look at that lineup, and they do sort of play a pretty strict 4-4-2. Bozanic and Colley have been those main midfield options for Glory, but maybe someone a little bit different to those guys. They can come in and provide a different option. You look at those other guys in that central midfield area, Macanef, Amini, Bodnar, all these guys, not necessarily creative midfielders, more sort of either box-to-box or defensive midfielders. The wingers, we need to see a bit more from them, but they have got different options there. Khalifi, Zimmerino's a good young option as well, Bruce Kamau, Daniel Benny, another youngster in there as well. But I would love to see a creative midfielder brought into Perth Glory to provide a bit more of a spark moving forward so they can bag some more goals this season. Sydney FC, a team who are starting to find some decent form as we approach the new year, as we enter the new year, I should say. And squad-wise, the depth-wise, they're looking pretty solid. And again, I really like how they have implemented, a bit more youth into this season. They signed a Manatides, De Jesus, Glasson, bringing in some more youthful options. And across the park, it's looking really, really solid. They're actually, funnily enough, one of those teams where I don't think they need to make too many drastic moves in the mid-season transfer window. I wouldn't be surprised if they made no moves at all. I think if I had to recommend a position, I think another midfield option wouldn't hurt as well. Obviously, you've got Caceres, Burgess in there, Bratton as well, some younger options in there as well. But aside from that, I can't really think, you look at that team list, and I don't think there's any real concerns, across the park. Good options everywhere. I think another midfield option, whether it is a defensive midfielder, attacking midfielder, just to help out with some squad depth. But one of the more comfortable sides heading into the mid-season transfer window, the Sky Blues. Wellington Phoenix. Let's talk about the Knicks because they have been just the story of the season. Wellington Phoenix, the New Zealand club, have been in such fantastic form. Top of the table at the time of this recording, at least. And this is sort of the shape that they've been playing, sort of a 4-3-3 sort of setup. Maybe a little bit of a diamond at times as well for Wellington. But for me, I think maybe another defensive midfielder just to cover Alex Rufer, who has been really underrated this season. Alex Rufer, he's been really, really solid there in the centre of the park for Wellington Phoenix. Again, you look across those other positions. Up top, they've got options there. At the back, they're decently covered. Maybe another centre-back would help out as well to provide more depth. But defensive midfield to slot in another player there, I think would be a good idea for Wellington Phoenix. But they have just done an incredible job with the squad that they have entering this season. A few months ago before the season, there was so much concern around Wellington and how they were going to perform this year. Giancarlo Italiano deserves so much praise for the job he has done there so far at the Knicks. Western Sydney Wanderers, a team towards the top of the table who have really, really solid squad depth. There aren't too many positions that they need to strengthen. Obviously, it's been a blow missing Brandon Borello in recent weeks. Hopefully, for Wanderers fans, he can return soon. But look, for the position for me to recruit in, maybe left back. You look at that squad sort of chart there. And again, you've probably got players who could slot into that left-back position. But to provide some competition there for Jack Clisby, another left-back option, maybe another youngster to come in would be a good option there. Aside from that, you look across the park and it's a really decent squad that they have there. They signed Valentina Yule a month ago as well, providing a bit more depth to cover for the injured Brandon Borello. So let's just go left-back there. Pretty easy one for Western Sydney Wanderers. Western United, the final team. And this is the one where we can maybe spend the most time discussing, and would love to get your thoughts on the comments in terms of what position you'd like to see your team recruiting in this mid-season transfer window. Western United are one of these fascinating ones where they've got a really strong squad. You look at Thurgate, Pena, we know Botic is a good striker, solid in defence with the likes of Donachie and Imai, Risden, Garuccio with their experience. But look, injuries have been hampering. We know that James Donachie is still yet to make an appearance for the Green and Black. Rukovic has been struggling with injury as well. They're a team who could maybe benefit from another attacking option. We do see Lockie Wales listed as the only right-sided midfield player, attacking player there. For Western United, again, we have seen Michael Roos sort of play in that area as well as Daniel Pena. But I think one more attacking option would help Western United, and they really, really need it because they've been struggling to find the back of the net. And it's tough to see the likes of Noah Botic and these guys struggling because we know how good they can be on their day. Noah Botic, a fantastic young Aussie striker. they're a team who clearly needs something different moving forward. It's a really funny one because you look at the team and they've got the ingredients there for goals, but for whatever reason, it's just not coming for them at the moment. Western United, another striker, would certainly help their cause, someone of real quality to provide some goals for the second half of the campaign. You look at that midfield area, that's another position where I wouldn't be surprised if Western look at as well. Maybe another defender to help out, covering at the back there. There's probably a few positions they could really, recruit in. Western United, it's a really fascinating one. Obviously they're bottom of the table, so they're the team that really desperately need to recruit the most. So there are all the 12 A-League men's teams. As I mentioned, drop in the comments where you would like to see your team recruit in for this January transfer window. Drop a like on the way out. My name's Lockie. This is Coastwood Football, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.